So usually if you have cash, at least you can use your credit to go to Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Navy Fed, and get a personal loan to get you over until you get back right. But if you don't have cash and you don't have good credit, what are you going to do? So I told them, keep your cash, let us finish working on your credit. And then when it's going to actually affect your credit, like it's going to affect your credit in a positive way if you pay it off, then go pay it off, because now you back leverage, because now if you ever need money again, your credit is good. But if you go blow this cash and your credit bad, if you come to a bad spot, you don't have no leverage because you don't got cash and you don't got credit. You need one or two in America.
Hi, guys. My name is Sierra Hillsman, and I'm a licensed professional counselor. This is the Legacy Speaks podcast. And as you know, I enjoy having conversations with entrepreneurs, creatives, and fellow clinicians about all things mental health. Today, we have an amazing conversation with the one and only Tony Stephenson. He is the mindset behind the Billionaire Club, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And so can you please let the people know who you are, a little bit more about the Premature Billionaire Club, and how people can find you?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Definitely an honor to be on this podcast, especially for everything that you stand for and what it's about. But my name is Tony Stephenson. I'm originally from Raleigh, North Carolina. I was in the military. I was in the Navy for 8 years. I got out in 2020. Before I got out, I started investing in real estate. So I started my own company then because I knew I didn't want to be in the military anymore. After like 3 or 4 years, I knew I didn't want to be in the military anymore. And we'll probably get into that a little bit later in the show. And then even, from there, I have the Premature Billionaire. I own this trademark. I own the Premature Billionaire Club trademark. And I really started it because I'm terrible with social media and I didn't have a caption for a picture. And so I remember Drake, he had a song, and in the song, he said something about premature millionaires. Welcome to our realest year. And I was just like, okay, Premature Billionaire. And I put it as the caption, and like the engagement from it went crazy. It's still on my page right now. The engagement from it went crazy. And I called my lawyer ASAP, like, yo, can we trademark this? And he was like, yeah, we can. So boom, we trademarked it. And I just really wanted, I really wanted to do something aggressive that could catch people's attention and then bring everybody back down to earth a little bit to really talk about the success principles to becoming a billionaire and what that really looks like. So I wanted it to be big enough to get everybody's attention, just to come and have real conversations about, especially in the Black community. Like, look, let's talk about real conversations as far as life insurance, as far as mental health goes, as far as, credit scores. Like, let's talk about the real things that we need in place to actually even be on the path to a billion. So yeah, that's how that came about.
Oh, absolutely love it. I'm a hip hop head as well, so I greatly appreciate the fact that you found inspiration in a Drake lyric. Okay. So
I could quote music all day. I'm a hip hop head too.
Oh, that's what's up. So you talked a little bit about the success strategies or the success principles in order to become a premature billionaire. First off, let's start in that particular area. What are some specific principles that you live by on a regular basis that have helped you to become the individual that you are today?
Really, I would say the number one thing is confidence in myself. I didn't care. I don't care right now, like that nobody else can see what I see. Because I believe in myself. Like, me and God got a relationship, and he told me whatever I asked for, I receive. So everything else outside of that, I don't really care, because me and God already got it. We already had our conversation. So first thing I would say, believe in yourself. And that's another thing about the brand that I want to push. Like, yo, it's okay to have big dreams. Like, I feel like in the Black community, sometimes we tie wealth because of the Bible, because of Christianity, we tie wealth to evil, because the Bible says money is the root of all evil, but it's the love of money is the root of all evil. We missed that part. So really just believing in yourself. And then also just understanding discipline will always triumph motivation. Like, you have to be disciplined. Like, even when you don't feel like it, you got to, like, it just getting clarity on what it is that you want. So those are, I think I'm kind of rumbling, but if I could go back and say, believe in yourself, and really having discipline is like the two main things, because it's easy to say, like for instance, like, and this is just one business that just to give the audience real perspective. I have 11,000 on an Amex card that has to be paid every month. Do you think I have time to really frivolously waste money? And that's one company that I have to pay. Like at the end of the month, I'm gonna have to pay 11,000 to clear that balance. So once you get yourself in a place of business, you're forced to be fiscally responsible. Like you're forced because now you have staff. You know, by the grace of God, God is good. My staff sent their kids to private school because my staff is overseas in the Philippines. During the pandemic, I was still paying my staff. They sent their kids to private school. Like, well, obviously, they was working for me before the pandemic, but I didn't find out until we had a quarterly staff meeting that 2 of my employees were sending their kids to private school. So you're going to get to a point in business to where you're forced to be financially responsible because your money just doesn't affect you anymore. It affects multiple people, you know? So yeah. That's just something else that kind of just goes into the business that I don't think people talk about enough.
Yeah, thank you so much for putting that perspective. I think oftentimes when we think about dreaming, we forget the fact that our dreams or people are attached to our specific dreams. Our dreams are never for ourselves. It's always to help bring other people to their expected dream or to help usher people into their next destiny. And it reminds me of this interview that I did previously before, where we talked about the importance of dreaming big because obviously it's going to help the masses, it's never for you. And so thank you for bringing that into perspective and scope. Another thing that you talked about was the importance of discipline, and you have a history with being in the U.S. Navy. What other experiences have you had that have contributed to your business success?
I was an athlete. I would say playing basketball. I wasn't good enough to go to college or the NBA, anything like that, but I won a state championship, and I've always been on winning teams. And just that alone taught me the importance of discipline. Like, even like the small things, like coaches would be like, touch the line. Like, if you don't touch the line, like, and it's really in real life is really just that minor detail that can cost you, a big deal of 20, 30,000. I've lost probably like my biggest loss on a real estate deal just because I didn't do the due diligence and I didn't cover up every spot was like $40,000 I lost out on. $40,000 just because I was rushing. That's all it was. Like I was just rushing because I seen how big the spread was and I'm rushing. And I didn't do the due diligence. So the discipline is going to take you a lot further than like getting up every day to be motivated, because I'm not going to lie. Trying to be motivated every day is tiring. It's draining. It's exhausting. Like, and you speaking from somebody who does motivational speaking, so like and that's one of the things about me. I always just I don't try to come up here and tell people what they want to hear with like the cookie cutter thing. Like, I'm gonna tell you the real, and that's a part of why my business mentorship has been so successful, because I've been telling people like legit. It's not anything I YouTube. Like, I'm telling you from experience. I'm speaking to you from experience. I'm not speaking from you from a course I took, and now from that course I'm gonna teach you what that course taught. No. I'm teaching you from experience. So the discipline, it got to be something you make up in your mind. It got to be a choice. It got to be a decision. We all have a choice. We all have a decision. Like, even in life in general, where you at in life right now, where I'm at in life right now is my choice. It's from the decisions I've made based off the choices I've made in my past that has gotten me and you right here. So,
Tony, that word choice always resonates with me. There's something that I always encourage clients to remember is the power of choice, or choice theory. So choice theory says that we are making choices every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every week, and so on. And it encourages the other individual to take accountability for their choices, recognizing that, hey, no matter what you're going through, you're still having to make a choice. You don't feel like getting out of bed? Okay, well, you can either lay there or get up and put your feet on the floor. You don't feel like going to work? Either way, you still have a choice, because if you don't go to work, then your bills don't get paid. You're always making these types of choices, but the goal is to make choices that'll help you get closer to the ideal self. I always encourage clients to look at themselves on a spectrum, figure out where you want to be, figure out where you used to be, and then figure out the in-between. Where are you in that in-between? And what do we need to do in order to close the gap between where we are and the ideal self?
Yeah. And even something I want to add on to that is that I say this all the time, that people underestimate what they could do in 5 years and they overestimate what they could do in a year, So sometimes I think, and I'm reading this devotional, man, it's so good. And one of the things in the devotional that has really been sticking out to me is grace, like on almost every. So it's like in one of the devotionals, it was like, when you look in the mirror, do you give that person in the mirror the same grace that God has given that person already? Like, are you beating yourself up like for no reason? Because God has already given you grace. So like, I think the hardest thing, and I'm talking to you and your audience, but I'm talking to myself too. It's hard to give yourself grace because everybody is harder on themselves than anybody else in the world. But I think that word grace is like, it's really been imprinted in my mind. And, even you talking to your clients about where, like, it's like, man, even though life may not be good for your clients right now, I'm pretty sure if they took the time to look back at where they came from, which where the grace comes in at, is like, man, I'm not where I used to be. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be either. So, yeah.
Because we're talking about devotionals. Oh, my goodness. Last night we were talking about how grace is defined as the unmerited favor of God. And when I think about that, I find it to be very important to remind ourselves of like grace and patience along our journey, the importance of self-forgiveness. A lot of us are quick to forgive other people, but we struggle to forgive ourselves. And that's a process within itself, right? We can empathize and recognize that these people might not have been in the correct mindset, or maybe they have some sets of circumstances that have held them back. But I'm like, wait a minute, why are you empathizing with somebody else? Have you showed yourself that same level of unmerited favor? Have you showed yourself that same level of patience and care and self-compassion that you do for other people? And so with you, as you are working with individuals to repair their credit, how do you teach your clients to practice self-compassion throughout their credit repair journey?
This year has been a whirlwind, hasn't it? And I'm pretty sure that you and your business have had to make a number of changes as a result of the pandemic. But I need you to get really present right now. Let's tap into the here and now in this very moment. When was the last time you truly checked in on your team? As a matter of fact, when was the last time that you truly thought about how you and your team are mentally and emotionally navigating through all of the adjustments that are taking place? But guess what? I'm here to help with that. Hi, my name is Sierra Hillsman, and I'm a licensed professional counselor and certified clinical trauma professional. I work with small businesses and corporations by helping their teams explore their presenting concerns. That way we can increase employee engagement and improve productivity overall. This can be done through in-person or online lunch and learn events, corporate workshops, and organizational seminars. Click the link below. That way you can start to learn how to truly invest in the overall mental and emotional wellness of your team.
That's a very good question. I just finished having a conversation with my family about this. For one, all of my clients are Black or Hispanic. So that right there goes to show that information was withheld from us. So a lot of times people are scared to get their credit repaired because they are embarrassed about it. But I tell people all the time, like, yo, you got to have grace, because for one, we wasn't even supposed to know about credit, or like we wasn't even supposed to be able to make our own decisions. Like we were literally enslaved. Like, like they were killing white people who got caught teaching Black people how to read and write. So for us to even be here today is a blessing. So it's like, I always try to give them the encouragement to say, look, it's not your fault. It like you didn't know what you didn't know. Your parents didn't teach you because their parents didn't teach them, and their parents didn't teach them because their parents didn't know. And it's a whole generation of a lot of stuff getting left out. And then the school system isn't properly teaching us about finances, the importance of a credit score, the importance of budgeting. We're getting taught trigonometry and geometry, and those things are important depending on what field you're in. But how about we just cater to the masses and get the foundation? Because even the people in that field still need the foundation of finances, So one of the things I always try to encourage my clients is, and kind of talk them off the ledge, is I just let them know, like, yo, like, it's okay. My credit was bad at one point too. My mama credit was bad. Everybody credit was bad at some point in time. I know millionaires mess their credit up, fix it, mess it up, fix it again. So I just try to let them know, like, it's okay. Like, it's not the end of the world. Nobody's judging you. Like, I'm judging the people who aren't taking the steps forward to fix it, especially if it's a problem, So I'm not judging. It's just like laughing at a fat person who in the gym. that don't even make sense. You know, like, yo, they're here, they're working on what they need to work on. They taking a step towards, you know, their goals. So, you know, when people come to me, I try to let them know, like literally, like, it's okay. And I try not to be so nonchalant about it, because my mindset around it, and I know like their emotions are high around it, but like literally I just be like, yo, like, it's all right, because I've been there. Like, it's okay. We're fixing the problem now, though. So that's kind of how I try to ease their mind around it, to let them know, like, yo, like, you're not a one-off. Like, you're literally the majority. Like, it's people that you talk to every day that probably need to get their credit fixed, but don't want to talk about it. So like, I try to let them know, like, yo, you're not singled out, or you're not a special case or black. Like, yo, you literally like everybody else.
Yeah, and there's beauty in that approach, because the goal is to normalize the situation. Well, let me do a bit of word replacement. Normalizing their experience, but not normalizing their circumstances. Because if you continue to normalize the circumstances, then it becomes the status quo. And so that's where the mindset piece comes in at. Can you tell me a little bit about how you start helping them to shift their mindset when it comes to repairing their credit, or even focusing on generational wealth?
One of the easiest things when it's time for people to repair their credit is I let them know, because most of the times my clients are business owners as well. And I just let them know the importance of it, and especially on the financial aspect. So it's like, if you want to go get a business loan right now, a personal loan right now to start your business, you're going to get hit with a 17% interest rate because of your credit. Now, how much of that are you paying in interest? And that's kind of like the psychology I let my clients know, like, look, you're paying me, but you're paying me a penny of how much you're going to save on interest. Like, you know, you're making an investment up front, because if you go out and try to get a credit card or a loan, they're going to give it to you, but your interest rate is going to be terrible. So invest with my company, let us fix your credit. And now you're walking in there and you're getting a 3% interest rate. You know, so I try to paint the picture for them to let them know, like, look, the long-term effect of this is 10 times better, because you put yourself in a good position to do whatever it is you want. I had a client call me today and say, hey, I got some cash. I know y'all working on my credit. Should I pay off the cards that I do have? And I said, no, because you're going to be left with the bag if something bad happens, because your credit isn't the greatest, and now you don't have cash. So usually if you have cash, at least you can use your credit to go to Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Navy Fed, and get a personal loan to get you over until you get back right. But if you don't have cash and you don't have good credit, what are you going to do? So I told them, keep your cash, let us finish working on your credit. And then when it's going to actually affect your credit, like, it's going to affect your credit in a positive way if you pay it off, then go pay it off, because now you back leverage, because now if you ever need money again, your credit is good. But if you go blow this cash and your credit bad, if you come to a bad spot, you don't have no leverage, because you don't got cash and you don't got credit. You need one or two in America. So that's kind of how I break it down.
Yeah, thank you for that breakdown, because it goes back to what you talked about earlier, right? In terms of all the things that we didn't know as a people over time. And I kind of correlate that with generational trauma, how belief systems, or the way that we have been impacted as a people, has been passed down from generation to generation. It's the same thing in terms of like what we have been taught, right? So there are lessons that were passed down from generation to generation. I know for me personally, my mom did not like owing anybody. So anytime we had a bill, or anytime we had like a credit issue, or whatever the case may be, make sure you pay it off. Make sure you pay it off. And then it wasn't until I got into my 20s when I realized, oh, I could utilize credit to leverage certain things, or I can take a different route. Instead of spending my cash, I could have invested in other different methods. So it's not only what we weren't taught, but it's also what we have been taught as well.
And even I want to piggyback on something before we move on. I just had a conversation. You know, my grandfather was in hospice. That's why I missed the last one. But I went home and I was just having a conversation with my family, because obviously anytime somebody died, we start bringing up old stuff and da-da-da-da. And I was telling my uncle, like, man, y'all got to do a better job at letting us know, like, y'all doing this secretive thing with history, with family history. And bro, we suffering for that. Like, we suffering for that when all y'all got to do is say something. Like, that's all y'all got to do is say something so we know. But I want to say something what you said about how it was passed down from generation to generation. My uncle's in therapy, and he told me his therapist told him that anxiety and stress is actually like embedded into like the Black people's DNA from slavery.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're a therapist. Can you confirm? Like, I know this is about me, but I want to make this about you now. Can you confirm that? Have you heard that in your studies before?
Yes. So it's called epigenetics. For us, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a particular book, it's called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. So post-traumatic slave syndrome is similar to post-traumatic stress disorder. So all of the emotional and mental and physical abuse that we've received as people of color over time, or specifically as African Americans, that has changed the way that our DNA shows up. And so things like anxiety or maybe even depression or other mental health concerns, they have a way of showing up from generation to generation to generation. There's also a study on rats, and I always like to preface this. This is not in relation to us as a people, because, you know, people get offended when we talk about the study of rats. But there was a study with rats where I think the scientist was shocking the rats, or was not abusing them, but harming the rats every time the rat was trying to get some particular food or anything like that. And that behavior modification ultimately was passed on to like the kids of those particular rodents. And so that's where the concept of epigenetics kind of stem from. It's just showing that there are certain behavioral responses, or maybe even rewiring of our neurological system that is passed down from generation to generation. And even when we were talking about anxiety, I thought about how some of your clients might be struggling with anxiety, right? So when we think about anxiety, it's the fear of uncertainty, or maybe even the fear of the future, which stems from the inability to control things. So a lot of people may not want to dive into the numbers because they're fearful of the guilt and the shame that comes with that information. They're also fearful of believing that, hey, I might not be in control of the situation. How could I have gotten this bad? Things of that nature. But it sounds like you are literally walking hand in hand with your clients to combat that anxiety by normalizing their situation rather than their circumstances.
Literally. And even you just talking about diving into the numbers, one of the ways I take the anxiety away from my clients with the numbers is we break down the numbers. Like, we break down the numbers. Okay, how much is your product or service? Because one of the things that I know for certain, because I myself, it happened to me, is that people don't know they're closer than what they think. Like, people don't know that. Like, they think it's far off. So every time I do this exercise with all my clients, I literally tell them, how much is your product? How much is it costing you to make that product or that service? Minus that, and that is your net. How many clients do you need a month to replace your income or to quit your job? And then once they look at it, they say, oh, wow, that's not as bad as I thought. Like, damn, I need 20 people a month. I need 10 people a month. It's like, so can you figure out a way through social media, your hot market, your warm market? Could you figure out a way to get 10 clients a month? I could definitely do that. Okay, cool. Now the anxiety from the numbers is gone, because now we got the numbers. Now the numbers is crystal clear. Now you're not guessing. So now I take the anxiety and the fear of not knowing what do they need to really do, because now I'm giving them a direct target. Yo, this is your target. Like, can we both nod and agree? You're looking at the numbers, I'm looking at the numbers. Is this a target we're agreeing on? Like, yeah, that's the target we're agreeing on. So now the anxiety of that is gone, and now they could just focus on getting to that target. So,
right. Definitely. And it goes back to that discipline that we were talking about earlier. Once you set those goals, of putting a system in place to be able to achieve those goals efficiently and effectively. If you have to make a certain number or quota, aim for that. Actually, don't aim for it. Work towards it in a practical manner. Usually with clients who have anxiety, I encourage them to mind map. which is something that we used to do in like middle school and high school. It's so simple. You can literally take your presenting problem, put it in the center, draw little octopus arms out, and you're literally writing your emotions associated with it, the thoughts that are associated with it, what are some particular solutions that could come with it, who are the people that you could tap into, whether it's your social support, maybe like you talked about your warm leads and your hot leads. You're literally putting everything on paper rather than trying to figure it out in your head. I always compare it to like doing a 500-piece puzzle. When you're doing a puzzle, you don't try to put the puzzle together with the pieces still in the box. You're literally taking those pieces and putting them out on the table, and you're seeing which pieces connect to one another. So just like learning to spread it out, because for whatever reason, we just try to figure it out in our head when all you have to do is just put everything on the table.
Because I feel like we weren't taught how to properly use our brain, like our mind. Like one of the things I always say is you're way more in control of your life than what you think. You know, so I think that's what it comes down to, us just not knowing how to properly use our mind. So
yeah, definitely. And being able to trust yourself with the thoughts and the emotions that come with it as well, rather than leaning on denial or maybe even suppression or repression.
and I want to touch on that, the trusting yourself part. If you want to trust yourself, the easiest way to trust yourself is to keep promises you make to yourself. That is where my confidence comes from. Every night and day, like it doesn't matter. Like somebody could meet me and say, "Oh, he's cocky and arrogant." Like, no, I just keep promises to myself. Like me and me have a good relationship. Like this ain't got nothing to do with you. This is me and me. We have a good relationship. So I tell people all the time, you don't have to make it this big audacious goal. But like one of the things for me, as long as I work out every day, I'm feeling confident. No matter what, because I know that's one of the hardest things for me personally. I can't speak for everybody else, but that's hard for me to do. Getting up every morning and working out is a challenge for me every morning. But I know because I work out at 6:30 in the morning, like when the sun was still down around that time, I would walk home because my gym is literally walking distance. And I would have so much confidence throughout the rest of my day because it's like, oh, I got one up. I know people still sleep right now. I know it's 7:30 in the morning and I'm done with my workout. And I know people are still asleep right now. So I know I'm up on people right now. So that's one of the things. I don't know if that's going to work for everybody, but it works for me when I just keep promises to myself. Like if you say, I'm going to shoot a podcast every week, like, because you do it, it starts to build your confidence over time. And I tell people this all the time, like, if you're not failing, you're not trying. Like, there's no way, like people are always so afraid to fail, but it's like, yo, how else are you going to get this? Like you need experience to get this. The level you're trying to go, you can't get there without the experience of failing first. Like there's no way. So it's like I have to push my students off the ledge. Like I had one student, she was like, I don't know, I got approved for the Airbnb, but I'm scared. And I'm like, yo, calm down. We got you the funding for it. We already allocated the money for it. We already did our numbers. We know your credit cards are going to be paid off in 3 months if we get 20 days of booking on this unit. Come to find out, a traveling nurse came in and paid double the rent. She's good. She's in the green. But I had to literally push her off and tell her like, yo, we also have your head, like we hedged against that decision. That's one of the things I do with all my clients and something I do with myself. It's always a hedge. When I say hedge, for those who don't know, it's like I'm always putting safeguards in place if it goes reverse, if it doesn't go the way I planned it. I always got something to minimize my losses. And that's what I do with my clients after I get them the business funding and they so scared because they never had this much money before. And I'm like, yo, but like, because that's one of the things they see that big number of how much debt they now have access to, and they don't want to have to owe that debt. And I'm like, you're not going to owe the debt. Your clients and your customers are going to pay that debt off based off the numbers and everything we broken down. So one thing, if I could give your audience anything else as far as building confidence, make a promise to yourself. And it don't have to be nothing big. If you say, I'm a journal every night, I'm gonna pray two times a day at these times, or I'm not gonna eat meat, or whatever it is, just find something so you can start building confidence in yourself to be like, damn, I could really do this.
Yeah. And those promises for anybody who wants to learn how to stick to those goals that you acquired towards the beginning of this year, take it back to the basics, SMART. So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-oriented or time-specific, making sure that it's something that's realistic. Granted, yes, I know we talked about dreaming big, but learning to reverse engineer that thing. What can you practically do today in order to bring you closer to that ideal self? And I think even when I think about the concept of premature billionaire, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's like learning to put those systems and structure in place, not just mindset, but that trust factor. I know when we talk about relationships, learning to trust yourself, learning to trust your capabilities, learning to trust your gifts, building that tangible and practical evidence in order for you to learn how to remain consistent. Even when we're talking about the mental health field or maybe even emotional wellness, you can't just get a worksheet on coping skills and think, oh, I'm going to practice it this one night and keep it moving. You have to constantly practice that thing before you're triggered, before you're traumatized, before you're stressed out, so that when those stressors come, you know how to utilize them in the moment.
Yeah. And to your point of even Premature Billionaire and how much it's kind of like affecting my mindset, because I've had the brand for like a year now. And this is the first year I've decided like, I'm gonna go all in on this because this is going to get enough attention for people to hear me and for people to feel better about their journey to, you know what I'm saying? So one of the things that has come with the Premature Billionaire that I've realized is we start businesses. And when I say we, I don't know how diverse your audience is, but I'm talking about Black people. Us as Black people, we start a business and we have so much confidence around telling people we're the CEO of our business or we own a business, right? And that's cool. I'm not knocking anybody from that. But the problem is, though, we're continuing to be employees to our businesses. That's not how you're going to make money. So I literally had this conversation with Tremaine. And she was like, oh my God, you're a genius. And I was like, yo, like, think about it. We have to get in the mindset of who are we going to hire to be the CEO of our business? Like, who are we going to hire? I don't want to be the CEO. I want to sit on the board and I want to get paid to sit on the board and I want to pay somebody else to build up my dream, because that's what Nikola Tesla did. Nikola Tesla, like the guy Tesla is named after him, but he literally created all the electric stuff he was doing through his imagination, and he went and found people who knew how to do it. Hence why when you come up in business, you hear people saying, I hire people smarter than me. I hire people smarter than me. I hire people smarter than me that work for me. That comes from you having the mindset of literally just owning the company and hiring a CEO, hiring a CFO, hiring a COO. But we have to change that mindset, because we go get an LLC and we start a business and we get some marketing and we get some clients. And like now we think we're doing something. But is that really how you're trying to be living your life in 10 years?
That's a no for 5,000. Okay.
You know, so, and I'm guilty of that. That's why I'm sharing it, because I'm guilty of it too. Because like I said, when I had that epiphany, I was like, because I have so much going on with the brand that it's like, now I'm in the process of like, I got to start hiring people. Right. But I want to hire all my staff from my business advisory staff, to my credit repair staff. All of them are overseas. I want to start giving opportunities to people here. You know, so yeah, that's like my little spill on that for everybody. Like, yo, get in the mindset of building out systems, understanding your processes, and understanding who am I going to hire to do this? Who am I going to hire to do this? So that's like my biggest thing right now, is because in 10 years, man, I just want to focus on being a husband and a father. Like, I don't want to be and that's kind of why I'm transitioning off social media for a minute, just so I could get my business off. I don't want my business to be codependent on my personal brand. I want my business to just be my business. We didn't know who Steve Jobs was until he died. And Apple is $1 billion company. I want to be Steve Jobs. I just don't want to die. I want to be Steve Jobs. Like, I want to be able to own a company and don't nobody even know who I am, because I still want to be able to pick my kids up from school. I want to be able to go to Target and I don't want to have to deal with that's such a, like, I don't want to be a celebrity. I just want to be rich. I don't want to be famous. I just want to be rich.
Oh my gosh, Tony, you were just speaking my language. I feel like we could talk on and on about this, because I was literally having this conversation. I'm just learning to delegate. And I think it goes back to the concept of trust, right? I think we get so invested in our business that it becomes who we are, or we start rooting our identity in our business. And there's this fear of being able to relinquish control. It's this fear of allowing people into our space. It's this fear that these other people aren't going to do it the way that we want them to do it. But the goal is to be able to have enough trust so that you can expand. The whole goal is to be fruitful and multiply. When God talked about that, it was more than just having babies, okay? We were being fruitful and multiplying with our gifts, our talents, the things that He's gifted us with. And so I think that's very important. So Tony, let the people know a little bit about your coaching program as well as your merchandise. I know you showed it a little bit towards the beginning, but tell the people how they can be able to tap into everything Premature Billionaire.
So with the coaching program I have, it's a self-paced course. You could go, you could get started on the mentorship. All the lives, all the class sessions are recorded. You have PDFs that come with the session, so you can make sure you follow along. Even if you don't have access to go watch the videos, you can follow along with the PDFs. And then we have a private group that you can be a part of, and you can ask questions. A lot of my students do business with each other. Like it's a beautiful thing, because one of the things I feel like is kind of my gift is creating culture. And so I let all my students know, like, man, look, it's enough people in this group. Like it's like 30, 40 people in my mentorship group. And it's like enough of us in here to where we shouldn't have to go outside the family for anything. Like this is, so I let them know, like, yo, this is like a family. And I set that tone up front. And, you know, I let people market their services in the group, and I let other people do, like, you know, I let it be a real thing. Like a girl had got some marketing done, and she came back to the group and was asking, like, hey, how do y'all like the marketing? They're like, oh my God, like who did the flyer? And she like, oh, hit him up. He did the flyer. Now all my students got amazing marketing because we're sharing resources. We're not hoarding anything. So yeah, so that's a self-paced course. Go as fast, as slow as you like. And then as far as the merch you could find at thebillionaire.com. And I'm pretty sure we're going to put all the links and everything in this show. But yeah, you go get the merch. And then what I haven't announced is that I'm going to take a proceed of all net profits. And what I usually do every year, I didn't do it last year, but I usually adopt a family every year for Christmas. So the year, what was last year? 2020, I adopted a family. Because I'm in the real estate space, I hit up some real estate contacts and say, yo, who behind on rent that need help, that you feel like deserves the help? And it was a lady that we got in contact with. She was behind like 3 months on rent, but because of COVID, they couldn't put her out. So I just reached out to her. She had like 3 or 4 kids. We had some clothes donated, like brand new clothes donated. We had grocery gift cards donated. We had physical cash donated. And then I also want to take the time to shout out one of like the biggest donations I got is from a guy named Ty Smith. He plays in the NFL. He's from Raleigh, North Carolina as well. And like he came through and like really just put us over the top and was able to give her like extra. And I really appreciated him for that, because I know people who play in the league, but like I'm funny about asking anybody for money. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm funny about doing that. So I usually do everything on my own, and then whoever comes and contributes, they come and contribute. But yeah, so I say all that to say that the net profits, a portion of the net profits from the merch is going to go towards, at the end of the year, we're going to adopt a family. But my goal is to be able to pay somebody rent for the year. That's my goal.
Yes, let's go. And even when we're talking about the premature billionaire mindset, obviously it's important for us to tend to our mental and emotional wellness. And so, Tony, how do you do that? How do you take care of your emotional well-being?
So this is where the conversation goes left with me. Yeah, the conversation goes left with me. I'm still working on it. I just signed up for my first therapy session. And it's not my first, but so here's the backstory about me. I have PTSD. I have all those things. I've been on deployments. I've seen things that people only see on TV. So I have all those things. But in the military, every therapist I went to, it was almost like, yo, you can't even relate to anything that I'm talking about. Like, we are just from 2 totally different cultures. My stress level and your stress level are naturally two different things. The way you would deal with this is completely different from the way I'm dealing with it, based on how you was just raised in the environment you were raised in. So I tried a lot of different ones. I won't feeling it. It was kind of like I was being judged. And so I just stopped going. So my last therapy session was probably 2019. And so because I was home, I was talking to my uncle. He was telling me about his therapist. So because he was telling me about his therapist and he was explaining to me the conversations and kind of the dialogue and how his therapist positions certain things, and his therapist is a Black man. I feel like I need a Black man. I'm not gonna say I just need a Black man, but I know I need either a Black man or a Black woman, or like I need somebody who could also dig deeper into like what I'm bringing them. Because it's like, nah, that kind of stems like, let me ask you about this over here. Like, because I know you're talking about this, but what about this over here? And it's like, oh, so that's what I need. But no offense to white therapists, because they would just never understand, like they would never have that foresight, unless they grew up with Black people. But they'll never have that foresight to be like, no, that's from something else. Like I could tell because I've been there, you know what I'm saying? Because they could relate to say I've been there, I've experienced it before, whatever the case may be. So, I got my first therapy session, and he's so good that he's booked out until like my first therapy session ain't till like April like 5th. Yeah, so he booked out. So we gonna try it. I'm in high hopes. I'm in high spirits about it, and that's another reason why I'm about to take a step back from social media and kind of really just because I'm 29 and I say, I'm not gonna go into another millennium, still dealing with the same problems that I've been running from, So I'm taking this last year to really just focus on me, and also to set myself up business-wise to where in 10 years my business is still thriving and I'm not dealing with the stress of being the face of my business.
Definitely. Oh my goodness, Tony, thank you so much for your honesty and transparency. Thank you so much for just sharing your experience, strength, and hope, and giving us the tips and tricks when it comes to credit repair and mindset management. Can you let the people know once again where they can tap into you, where can they find you, your social media handles, all that jazz?
Yeah, so just go to Tony, find me on Instagram at Tony Stephenson with a PH. because I'm the second Tony Stephenson on Instagram. And if you click the link in my bio, you'll literally see everything. Even if you go through my reels, you'll probably learn a thing or two. So Instagram is the main place you can tap in with me at.
Awesome sauce. Y'all, please make sure that y'all are tapping into the Premature Billionaire Club mentorship that's readily available. Once again, if you go to his Instagram, you will find those links in his bio. Also, don't forget to look him up via YouTube, where he has a couple of videos on credit reporting, how to start 2022, stop dreaming with limitations and things of that nature. So let's get our mindset right when it comes to motivation, business, and credit. Oh, and before I go, there's a question that I always ask my guests before they leave. When we talk about the concept of legacy, we're always thinking about wealth building, what we want to bring to the table, what we would like to pass on from generation to generation. What would you like your legacy to speak about you?
If I had to say, I would want my legacy to be that I always cared about people and I always tried to take care of as many people as I could.
Ooh, what a great way to end it. Y'all, thank you so much for tapping into this particular episode. It will be featured on YouTube as well as the Legacy Speaks podcast on all streaming platforms. Once again, my name is Sierra Hillsman, licensed professional counselor and the founder of Legacy Speaks. Please make sure that you follow us at Legacy SPKS on everything. Until next time.